I'm here with Travis Hettenbach to talk about LED lighting very specifically and kind of how it compares to some other things. So Travis, how are we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
Excellent. So talk to me about LED lighting.
Okay, definitely. Well, LED lighting is a new technology, a relatively new technology in terms of lighting. It stands for light emitting diode,
Okay.
which is just a really fancy way of saying instead of using heat conducted through a wire to produce light,
The Edison version of things.
the Edison version of things, we're converting electricity directly into light. So it's a more efficient method of producing light.
Sure. How is it different then? Because with kind of the scale, and we'll talk about it here in a second with the little display, but everyone kind of got a little bit at least familiar with CFLs, but that's compact fluorescent lighting. How are those two technologies different?
Compact fluorescent uses a tube, so it's compact fluorescent is much like what you have on your fluorescent tubes in your offices or things like that.
Okay.
It's still a gas-filled tube, and we're passing electricity through that to ignite or excite the gas. So that gas has to be in that tube for that to work, which is why when they get dropped or broken, we have such a fun, exciting experience with that. So yeah.
Always. Not the same issues with LEDs then, I assume.
Right, right. I've actually dropped LEDs on the floor before, and they still work great. They're very robust. They're not as explosive, as you will, as a fluorescent would be, but yeah, they're much more robust.
Well, as we kind of move forward in the, away from the traditional wattage as being the way we measure lights, 7,500 watts, depending upon whatever needs your room may need or you may think your room needs. How do we compare LEDs?
With an LED, a lot of times we're going to talk about lumens, which is a measurement of light output. So think about maybe a comparison would be your garden hose. You talk about like gallons per minute or something like that.
Sure.
You're trying to figure out how much flow is coming out of it. That's the measurement of light for a light bulb. So we're going to see the industry kind of move in that direction where wattage doesn't mean as much anymore because it's just we aren't going to have the 75 watt, we're not going to have the 100 watt bulbs anymore.
Yeah.
And eventually we're not going to have the 60s and the 40s. So we're going to see that industry move to using the word lumens to determine what those are. So that's going to be your comparison. A typical 60 watt bulb like you'd use like in your ceiling fan or something like that is going to be around an 800 lumen bulb.
Okay.
So if you see a bulb that produces about 800 lumens, you can feel fairly confident that's going to produce just like a 60 watt bulb would be.
Sure.
So when we get into like a 100 watt equivalent, we're talking more like 1,000 lumens, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay. And I assume there's a place, a resource for all of the consumers out there as we start to readjust ourselves for people to go to?
Right. A lot of the manufacturers have produced something on their websites that tell you what the comparisons are. Really, there's a lot of information out there on the web. You could probably just Google it and you probably find about 10 different resources. Hopefully they're saying almost the same things. That probably is the challenge, is maybe some of them aren't. But
how many manufacturers are there of LEDs? There's a lot, right?
There are a lot, and that's part of the challenge with the industry right now because it is pretty new. Everybody wants to get on the boat, so there are a lot of manufacturers out there. Part of what we do here at LED Source is try to help the consumer see past all of the, dare I say, the junk that's out there.
Sure.
Because there is a lot of stuff that's really not up to the quality that people need for either their homes or offices or workplaces. And so when we start talking about manufacturers, you want to look for big names probably that you recognize. In the LED world, that's Lighting Science Group, Cree, Toshiba, Philips, names like that.
That all sounds great, but even better is when we talk about lighting, why not see the stuff that we're talking about? Now you've got a great display here right in front of us. It kind of's got it's the incandescents, the CFL, and the LED.
Right, right. So everything we've got here side by side would be considered a 60 watt equivalent.
Okay.
So in terms of light output, they're going to be pretty much the same.
Level playing field.
Level playing field. So you're right. We've got a 60 watt incandescent. We've got a compact fluorescent or a CFL that I believe is about a 14 watt. And then we've got an LED that's a 12 watt, okay? So in terms of actual electricity consumed, the most efficient version is the LED.
And that's what wattage is a measure of.
Right, right. But in terms of light output, they're going to be the same. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on, and you can kind of see what the differences are. They should be relatively the same. So hopefully you can see the incandescent, nice and bright, just like we'd expect it to, comes right on just like it should. The LED actually came on instantly as well. We have full brightness from the very beginning. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but the compact fluorescent is kind of doing some strange things here. Up close you'll be able to tell, but it kind of got some wavy lines to it and things like that. This is a compact fluorescent. That gas takes a little bit of time to get excited in there, and so that's why fluorescents have a warm-up period. And as I'm sure a lot of people have understood, when they say instant on, they aren't necessarily truly instant on. Whereas the LED, you know, it would be instant on, and of course the incandescent is instant on.
In fact, we've seen now the CFL really brighten up some.
Right,
or,
right.
Or lumen up, is that a phrase?
I don't know. I'd stick with brighten up.
Okay, fine.
Over time, and you're exactly right, they will warm up. Now, the interesting thing is here is when we put them on a dimmer and dim them back down, you're going to see that the incandescent and the LED both dim very nicely. Whereas the compact fluorescent, this is not a dimmable compact fluorescent, and they do make them.
Yes.
However, the performance is not all that great, but you can see that it really did not dim down like it should have. Now it's going to do, well,
Gets a little grumpy with it, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and you probably can't hear it, but it does have a pretty good buzz to it when you put it on a dimmer when it shouldn't be. And the reality is, it's not going to last like this. If I run it on a dimmer, it's just not going to last as long as it should.
No, it's not designed to do that.
An incandescent, which by the way is going to be very warm now, is probably going to be about a 2,000 hour bulb. So in terms of the life that's going to have, it's going to operate for about 2,000 hours before it burns out.
Okay.
That's an average. So you're going to have some that last a little bit longer and some that don't last quite as long.
Sure.
The compact fluorescent, they're kind of all over the board. You're going to have anywhere from probably 4,000 to 10,000 hours depending on who the manufacturer is and the quality and that sort of thing. So they're going to last longer than the incandescent, but they're also going to suffer from being turned on and off frequently.
Sure.
They're not going to last as long. The LED won't suffer from that, and this is a 50,000 hour bulb. So in terms of bulb changes, you're going to change this guy 25 times before you have to touch this one.
So for the lazy ones of us out there, that one would be the one we want to, convenience
Right.
sake.
But for what it's worth, lazy is one possibility. But think about that light bulb you got over your stairwell that you can't get a ladder to.
Oh yeah, that's safety then measured.
Safety, absolutely. Convenience, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's also interesting, of course, here, I mean, it is this room temperature effectively over
Right.
here. This one,
It's
warm
up.
but-
Don't put your hand on that one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to. So that's also interesting, just the amount of heat. That means,
Yes.
that really speaks to the efficiency, though, of the bulb, like how much
Right.
power is just going straight to light.
Right. The light on an incandescent, the light is really a byproduct of the heat. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really because what we're doing is heating up that element and we just happen to get light out of it. So that's why those are hot. We can actually factor in a cooling savings. So even though we get electricity savings, there's also a cooling bonus because we are putting less heat into the room.
And is this a feature? Is this kind of, LEDs can kind of come in every shape or size imaginable, is that right?
Right, right, and we're seeing the industry evolve pretty quickly in this regard because most people would look at this and say this is kind of a strange looking light bulb. It doesn't look anything like what I'm used to seeing. The industry is moving very rapidly to change this design as well. So this is still meant to mimic the light that this puts out. But we're seeing more and more designs come out that are going to look closer and closer to that. The main thing here is there is a heat sink associated with the LED because they do have a heat associated with them.
Gotcha.
But they need to get that heat away from the LED quickly so they last as long as they're supposed to.
Fair enough. Well, Travis, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, before you go, I wanted to give you a little present to take along with you. This is our mascot. His name is Lou Man.
All right.
We talked about lumens, obviously a little play on words there, but yeah, that's our little buddy. He goes around with us and checks out lighting with us, and we have a lot of fun. So
If you get a few of them together, it's the Lou Man Group.
it's the Lou Man Group. That's right. That's
Thank
right.
you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.